Oh, geez. I've ran into exactly the issue that I was trying to avoid. Oh! Yep. That's not right. Hey everybody, welcome back to Cyberlift. Today I have something different for you. I've been dying to do something like this ever since I had the privilege of driving the new refreshed Model S. And I'm happy to announce that my Model 3 and I got yoked. The following is an install video following my experience as I changed out from a regular wheel to the Honcho Yoke. If you stick through to the end, you'll see a full visual of the tools I used to get this job done, so you can avoid making the mistakes that I made. But before we get going, there are a few things that I feel you need to know. Some disclaimers and some advice to make the overall experience less frustrating. Now, during the install, when it came time to tighten down the wheel, I was functioning off of a specific torque for the steering wheel bolt that somewhere I saw at 90 Newton meters, which would be close to about 800 inch-pounds or 66 pound-feet of torque. However, upon further investigation, I could not find that information anywhere. In fact, I even went to the local service center here in San Diego, and when I asked them for the spec on the wheel bolt for the steering wheel, after a few minutes, they came back and told me that that's information that Tesla does not give out. It's considered intellectual property, or in the least confidential. Now, I know this may aggravate some of you. It aggravates me as well, because making sure that the steering wheel bolt is torqued properly, that's a safety concern. So the best advice I can give is tighten it down as hard as you can. I tightened it to the 90 Newton meters, or just about, and I'm confident that this isn't going anywhere. But I do think that things like the steering wheel bolts, torque spec, and other things would, hopefully fall under a right to repair that unfortunately we as customers do not have right now. So when it comes to everything you're going to do to your Tesla, keep in mind the inherent risk that you are taking and be very, very careful. My vehicle is out of warranty. Anything that I mess up here on my wheel, that's on me. And it's good to know that in advance. Now, I was told by this same service center that due to the fact that the airbag is the only part that's smart, so to speak, it would not affect the ability for the vehicle to be serviced in the future, because the wheel is just dumb hardware. It's not something that would, make it to where Tesla says, no, they can't touch your car. That would be a pretty big concern if it was. But that said, keep in mind the risks. Now, for some simple advice to make it less of a headache, there are some things to consider. There are a lot of people that have made steering wheel modifications and they do it without turning the car off, like disconnecting the actual battery or the 12 volt or anything. I did. And it isn't necessarily a requirement, but it was more so peace of mind for me. So I did disconnect the 12 volt and the main battery connector in the rear of the vehicle. What you decide to do is up to you ultimately, whatever you're comfortable with. If you do decide though to kill the car, you need to make sure you keep your windows down and the front doors at least. And for ease of plugging the rear connector back in, you're gonna wanna keep that back door open too. I had to crawl through here to get under the seat to plug it in, and you'll see why that was a fun little challenge for me in the video. But at least with the windows down, you can access the emergency release latch. That way you don't have to worry about getting locked out of your car. Keep in mind that your frunk as well. If that closes and your car's dead, not gonna open that back up. I feel like it should be obvious, but I'll say it anyway. Make sure you have all the tools you need before you start to avoid a lot of headaches. And without further ado, here's me installing the yoke in my Model 3. Enjoy. Let's go ahead and get this going. I'm excited, so I apologize if I'm talking a lot or talking fast or whatever, just over the top. I don't care. Got these two holes here. You got one on this side and one on the other side. So what you're gonna see is I'm going to put a screwdriver in each, and we're gonna pop the airbag right out. Got the right side. There we go. We've released the clips. There we go, there we go. That wasn't too bad. All right. So we got the guts out. Now, we just take the big boy out. This right here, you can see it on both cameras. This is the actual airbag piece, the guts of it. So this will just plug into the new slot and we'll be all good. This is the only thing to be delicate with and make sure you don't mess up. The rest is just dumb hardware. So we'll be able to swap that out and this will pop right into the Honcho Yoke. The airbag piece plugged in just right here. And the only other one to worry about is the actual switch that controls basically the electronics for your scroll wheels, which of course you have here. And we'll just unplug this and then we'll take out the center set bolt. Let's go ahead and get this connector out of here. I am not going to try to do this one-handed. There we go. Got it. All right. Now it just takes a little wiggling. This is a 10 millimeter hex head. If you're wondering, for the actual steering wheel itself. I've ran into exactly the issue that I was trying to avoid. What I do not have is an extender. As you can see, there's quite a bit of depth there. I've got adapters, yes, that came with the toolkit, but the wrong size. And yeah, it's just a blunder. So I am going to go back to O'Reilly's, grab the proper adapter, and then we will continue. Now that the detour is out of the way, these were very important. And we're gonna grab our pretty ridiculous wrench here. All right, there we go. We're gonna crank it. Got it. All right, we should be able to just pull this off. All right, wheel number one gone. Here we go. Oh, beautiful fit. That just slipped right in place. Oh man, I'm excited. So these are already where they need to be. We're gonna go ahead and position this clip. It's in, which that'll give actuation to, wow. Okay, genuine reaction for a moment. I wanna have this big old thing taking up space. How crazy. Yeah, a lot clearer. It's like I have nothing, it's way down here. Now that that nerd moment's aside, we're gonna go ahead and in reverse order, put this thing back together. Set this in, make sure it threads properly. Get this in here nice and tight. And then we're gonna make sure that we very smartly adjust. Oh, geez. Check this out. What you have here is a 3/8 drive. What you have here is a 1/4 inch drive. Yeah, that's more. So close. At least there'll be a detailed parts list for you folks. There's no way around it. We need a step down adapter. I'm gonna have to make another run. Well, here we go. Final leg of the race. This is all that was holding us back. That was it. 3/8 to a 1/4 inch adapter. Now we can torque it and put it all back together, and we're done. Oh, wow. Completely sheared this piece right off. I'll have to figure out how to get that part out of there. But yeah, no, I'm gonna call that good. All the adventures working on a car. All right, airbags plugged in. Okay, so we went in the back seat and we got the power cable reinstalled. With that door closed, it was a lot harder to crawl in through here, but it's done. So the last bit now is to restore 12-volt power, and hopefully the horn won't be blaring. Yep. That's not right. Yeah. Got it. All right, the install is complete. Now it's time to go for a drive. Oh, that is something else. And I gotta say, I am a fan of how the carbon looks. So far, this feels nice. It's our first drive with the Yoke. Of course, the biggest difference that I notice, or that anybody would notice, is just the wide open front. Like, it's such a nice experience to not have a wheel there. It really just opens up how it feels. And yeah, this feels just like the Model S. All right, everybody, here we are about 5 days after install. So 5 days me driving is about the equivalent of the average person driving for 2.5, 3 months. I did the math, you know, and in the last 5 days, I've done about 1,000 kilometers of driving, and that's a lot. That's a lot more than the typical person. So I've gotten a lot more time in those 5 days with the Yoke than you would in a week. A lot of the interviews with owners of the new long range and plaid Model S's talk about after 2 weeks you feel a lot better with the Yoke in general. Like Emmett Peppers, for example, that was on the Ride the Lightning podcast, talked about how your brain kind of rewires and you get used to how the Yoke feels. And even more so for him and owners of S and X's because of the fact that they do not have these stocks. So it's even easier for me. However, my point is, after 5 days, I've got nothing but good things to say. I love it. This feels so good. Yeah, all the experience in driving with this thing, even the tight corners and getting into parking lots, you get very used to how this feels. You can have your finger here for turns. I mean, it's great. It's really not as bad as a lot of people, especially that have not driven with one, tend to make it out to be. And I'm always on the road. I'm driving around people all day. It's a great conversation starter. Everyone's asking if this is like one of the new Teslas because of the wheel. So it feels great to have this in the Model 3. I love the quality, the carbon, the Alcantara. It all feels so great. It feels larger and more sturdy in your grip, and there's just so many ways to rest your hands and to just feel the enhanced comfort. And definitely steps up the spaceship feeling in the open visual in front of you and just the overall experience. And I mean, as you can see with how I'm driving around as we pull into this charging area, it's a cakewalk. It just feels natural if you take the time to get used to it. Not everybody's gonna like it. That's totally understandable. It's not everyone's cup of tea, but it definitely is mine. I love it. So that concludes our little not really first impressions, but our secondary impressions after a few days. Thank you for tuning in. I hope you've enjoyed it. We're gonna get back to the full self-driving videos and such and see how 10.6 handles things. Take care. These two, or anything of similar size, can be used to pop the metal bracket that holds the airbag down. Highly recommend a needle nose, especially for folks with larger fingers when it comes to removing the clips to the airbag and to the scroll wheels. You'll need a 10mm hex head with a socket wrench or a breaker bar will make it a little bit easier. And then you can use either the smaller extension or larger one, doesn't matter. 3-inch should just be fine. And then after you pull the wheel off and replace it, you'll need to make sure the hex head's back in place and tightened down properly. To tighten the wheel in place, I used the torque wrench set to 90 Newton meters, or about 66 pound-feet, or 800 inch-pounds of torque. That ended up being far too much, as you saw. What I should have done was attach the 3/8 drive and then the step-down adapter, not the step-down adapter and then a 1/4 inch extension. That was way too much torque for such a thin piece. Having worked on cars, I should have known better. Anyways, tighten it down really well and then pop the airbag back in place and you are good to go.